Do you believe in the concept of black genius? The world's watching you, analyzing you.
But you might be moving up too fast. Yeah.
Sly was kind of the first black artist to go through that so publicly.
The anxiety, the pressure, the drug use. He was an underdog. You are exceptionally gifted. But at the same time, none of that protects you.
If you're Sly Stone, there is no blueprint for what comes next.
Be myself. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be myself.
Hey. Hey. My name is Rembert Browne. I'm a writer, and I have the privilege, the honor of talking to two men directly responsible for this doc that I'm going to have come down and answer some questions. Producer Joseph Patel and director Ahmir Questlove Thompson. I think after watching the doc, it's very clear, like, why Sly, why someone like him should have a documentary like this. But I'm curious when that, the answer is Sly moment happened for both of you.
Okay, so we were editing Sly in Summer of Soul, and of course that the Harlem Cultural Festival happens 10 days before Woodstock. So essentially they're doing a dress rehearsal in front of the Woodstock show 10 days later. And, you know, we're sitting there editing and I'm like, man, Sly doesn't even know in 10 days, like, his life is about to have a complete turnaround. He doesn't even know it. Like, this moment, everything's going to be different. And not less than 24 hours later, I get a call from Common, and he's like, hey, I heard you guys were doing that, we didn't have a title yet, that Black Woodstock film. And I don't know if you know this, but we have the rights to Sly Stone's story. Would you be at all interested in doing this story? And I was just like, yo, dog, we literally just said that hours ago. Yeah, for me as a person who, you know, I've been doing this I've been in the roots for 37 years. Like, if anyone has experienced a tortoise in the hare journey to whatever this is, or like whatever the imaginary goal line is, or that's, you know, it's me, but it's like, on surface, he seemed to be getting everything he ever wanted. Why didn't he seem like he wanted it? And so the answer just, or the permission to find out that answer, fell into our lap. Yeah.
I found out about it after Sundance. There was an announcement in the trades that Ahmir was directing a Sly and the Family Stone documentary. And I called him and I was like, do you want me to work on this? And he's like, of course. Like, cool. That was it. But I will say this. I don't know. I didn't know as much about Sly's story as Ahmir did. And so when we really actually set out to work on this, I asked Ahmir, what's the story? And he said, it's about Sly, but also when you trace back all the black artists who find success, including Ahmir, including his peers, he's like, Sly was really the first to go through this thing that we all experience. And I think for us in the films that we do together, it's about one specific thing, but really something that resonates more to a bigger idea. And so Ahmir in the very first conversation was like, it's about Sly, but it's really about the burden of black genius.
Yeah, who but me? He sits in the passenger seat of every artist that goes through this. Like that story alone, I can give you 11, 12, 13 versions of that, you know, with every artist, and not just black artists, like, and not just singers, but, you know, I now know, like, I don't take "be careful for what you ask for" lightly. And as someone who's like a serial meditator, manifester, maybe I'm just under 6 months of trying to manifest to have that. No one manifests like, give me the bandwidth to be able to handle what I'm asking for. You can say, I would like to make $15 billion, and it can happen. But you got to also work hard in manifesting the everything that comes with that, and oftentimes we're not prepared.
I'm curious, in this directing this film, there were peers of yours who said some of the smartest things I've ever heard, but also, you know, it's
Didn't know they were going to get ambushed with all these questions. Exactly.
Can you talk or speak to the process of interviewing your peers, people you have known for a long time?
Jedi mind tricking people?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
For starters, what, at least 1920, right? I feel like at the end of the day, we have the right talking heads is just enough, because what we're not trying to do is pile on. It would have been so easy just to tell the worst stories and the worst experiences and kind of take advantage of, you know, people's poor choices in life just to benefit our film and tell a more sensational story. But I do know, oftentimes, especially with black artists, they're not treated as human beings. Like, even the Family Stone members were like, boy, what's this therapy? You trying to make me go to therapy? Like, that sort of thing. Like, a lot of them aren't asked half the time, like, how they feel. The questions like that. I'd kind of put out fillers to about 19, 20 of my peers. Of which I could probably say this is probably the most frightening question they've ever been asked. And a lot of them didn't want to do it because they couldn't allow themselves to go there. Some agreed to do it, and then day of, hours before, like, are you showing up? So it's almost like in real time, but it's almost like I expected that. He was upset as a producer because, he's watching the budget and everything, but
Money.
yeah. It's not like canceling a recording session where it's like, all right, I'll do my vocals later, that sort of thing. Like, once you agree to shoot, certain things have to be implemented. But it's like, if you're telling the story, you are also telling, it's not a news flash. Yes, this is also Lauryn Hill's story. This is also D'Angelo's story. This is Frank Ocean's story.
Multi-generational.
Kanye's story right now. This is literally like, you have everything you ever wanted in the world. Like, why are you purposely trying to mess this up? And it's so much deeper. Like, from afar, we think we want things. But there's so much under the surface that we have to explore. And I think that's frightening for people sometimes. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts of the movie that I think I'm most proud of on our behalf is like D'Angelo, Andre, Q-Tip, Dream, Vernon, Nile, Jimmy, Terry, like Shaka. Everyone in the movie is there for a reason. And they all say really insightful things. And if you don't know their backstories, there's still pretty insightful analysis of Sly, because he really impacted, his music really impacted them. But if you do know their backstories, if you do know D'Angelo,
you know, also suffered through some of the same things Sly did when he was successful, right? He put out one album and everyone called him the next Marvin Gaye. And then he does Voodoo, and he releases a single, How Does It Feel, with a video that people can't stop talking about. And then when they go on tour for the Voodoo tour, he's the band leader. Every night, Ahmir is witness to D'Angelo struggling to go on stage every night, getting later and later, because he knows he has to be in top physical condition to perform that song with his shirt off to a screaming, sold-out room every night. And what that did to him, Vernon Reid narrates the Dick Cavett scene when Vernon Reid was in Living Color and they had Cult of Personality. He was on that couch with white talk show hosts questioning his rock merit. Like, he's been through that. So everyone in the movie, whether people pick up on it or not, it was really intentional. We spent a lot of time in pre-production figuring out who are the people that could speak to Sly's story as proxies.
Yeah, I mean, there is a ton that I took away where it's like, I'm not Sly, but there are aspects of his story that are extremely familiar, and a lot of them are related to creativity and being known and all of that. So, you know, even someone at that height, the fact that the kind of through line story was very relatable spoke to me as a viewer. There's like crazy archival footage in here, like just like nuts. And I'm curious of the archival included, what is the one that really stands out to you, or like is closest to you?
Do we have the same answer on this, right?
1, 2, 3.
See, I think I know what your answer. What is this, like the newlywed game? Like, let me get my cue cards. I think you like the Winchester scene. No?
That's not my favorite.
What'd you think?
It's P-Funk backing Sly.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to hear P-Funk's interpretation of Sly's music, like I want to hear that the entire show that way. You know, it's weird now, especially because, you know, we live in the beginning period of AI.
Yes.
The part that kind of freaks me out a little bit, because it's real life. You know, every household in the 70s had the Sly and the Family Stone's Greatest Hits album cover. So when you see Greg Arico's 8mm home film, it's almost like one of those AI things you see on social media where I'm seeing the actual album cover come to life, because Rose is wearing the same exact outfit, Larry's wearing the same exact outfit. And so just to see the amount of times I've studied that album cover, just looking at it, and then suddenly we're seeing them just like running across the street or just walking, you know, in those same exact outfits. Like, yeah. It's minuscule, but that to me, I kind of freaked out when I saw that album cover come to life.
Yeah. One thing that I really enjoyed, because it kind of happened on numerous occasions throughout the doc, is there are these just like kind of moments of prolonged silence. Sometimes it's just like there's no sound, cameras just like on Sly, and you're kind of watching like 15 things happen on his face at once. The interview when he's in the like red jersey, the one that kind of there's a lot of that. I'm curious, also connected to that idea of Sly as or as not a cautionary tale. Kind of how Sly, just spending years with him, how him and his life have like kind of stuck to you as a creative. It's a big question.
People think Whenever I say this, they think I'm over exaggerating, but it's to the point where I had to get a second therapist. Well, because unlike now, the weird thing is that we created Summer of Soul. A lion's share was done in the pandemic, and so the day of Lin-Manuel's interview was like I remembered I had to pay off 2 funerals that day. So like death and depression and dad's in the hospital, we need help and da 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 da. Like 2020 was a draining year. However, what was different this go round is like, and I don't know if it's because maybe I'm empathic or whatever, but when you're interviewing, you're taking on that person's energy.
Yeah.
And so like even Fun Story was told in a humorous way. And then, we kind of knew it was going to be like a comedy relief moment, but oh man, the way I like broke down that night in my hotel, man, like it just, that affects you. And to live with that year, month after month after month after year after year after year, it's like you take it inside and then on top of that, like the things that you don't see, like this could have easily been a 3 to 4 hour affair, of just stories that we've heard, but things that could happen to anybody. So
it should have been 4 hours. No, like really, like Sly deserves that. Like really, like if it were a white artist, like it would be a 4-hour series or a 4-part series. It's like part of the reason one of the things we talked about very, very, very early was like telling Sly's story with empathy, right? Mm-hmm. That's important, but also like the fact that he's still alive is important. It's why the film is titled Sly Lives, because had he passed away at 27, like a lot of people of his generation, famous and on top, like, would we revere him more? You know what I mean? And it's like Ahmir also talks about the run of genius. He talks about like most artists have a genius run of max 7 years, right? And then a lot of those artists that he's referencing died before we could find out. Yeah. Sly didn't. And Sly probably had more down years than up years, but does that mean he's any less of a genius? And I think those are sort of the subtext questions of the film,
Yeah, and I that feels very relevant today as we like live in a moment where it seems like everyone can get a little famous. And I was thinking about it because one of the shows that I remember leaving a big impact on me as a kid was on VH1, the One Hit Wonders show. And it felt like that show was just like mocking people that had a moment and then fell. And I was like, what is that about? Watching this doc, if you would have asked me before I watched this doc, like how long did Sly put out these singles, I probably would have said 15 years. It was a really tight period of time, and I don't think it matters any less, but that does kind of go against some of how we think about things now. Was that like a kind of shocking revelation? Or was it like, yeah, like I kind of expected it to have been that period of time?
It's so weird to see it from this perspective because, I got into Sly. I'm born in 71, but Sly was always, it's weird with Sly and James Brown. And this is speaking for from necessarily a b-boy hip hop point of view. Like, even though Sly and James Brown, some will say that, okay, maybe Small Talk, maybe High on You in 75 is kind of really the true end of Sly's canon. And the same for James Brown, like 74, 75, like when the Reality album comes out, or maybe the Hell album, people counted James Brown out. But, because of b-boy culture, like you could make it if you try, and never went away. I heard it just as much in 82, 83, 84 before sampling, as much as I did when 88, 89, 90, 91 comes around. And then, Sly's part in the Digital Underground's Humpty Dance, like that fed an entire generation. That fed an entire generation alone, did that one breakbeat. So, but seeing it here, where it's like, okay, he really had like 4 years of absolute
dominance.
Yeah, but it's, again, I think the powerful quote is that he literally invented the alphabet. We didn't even get to the part of, the whole purpose of music video, at least in the late 60s, early 70s, was that some artists couldn't travel out of the country, go to Europe or go to South America or go to any parts of Asia or anywhere around the world. So let's shoot a performance video to, but Sly was doing concepts. The video for Everyday People was like a conceptual video, which was unheard of in 1969. There's a video for Life, same thing. You know what I mean? So much ideas and innovation that came from him that we didn't even begin to crack the surface. But, he was the chosen one. And I believe it's speculated, like, who winds up picking up the baton. Some could say Stevie Wonder wound up picking up the baton and finishing the rest of the race. Some could say Earth, Wind & Fire. But really, having been alive in 82 to really witness what it was like for those first, like, post 5-year Thriller run between 82 and 87 for Michael Jackson, like, that's what Sly's role would have been had he, continued at that pace. But, again, you have to have the bandwidth to want to go through that.
Yeah. I think also, like, continuing at that pace is not sustainable, even though we kind of expect it of everyone.
I will say it's I believe it could be possible, but they're really, the idea of being famous is way, way further than the actual results of what you get. And I just, I don't know any situation of, as much as I get mad that Sade releases a record once every 15 years, part of me now is like glad, like, oh, she chose herself first over us. Like, here, you get one little, you get these 8 songs every 10 years, and I'm fine with it,
No, but Andre is, it's funny, Andre's position in the film, right? His role in the film. He's someone who saw what could happen to you if you kept doing the thing that people wanted you to do that you didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. Right? He knew the template. And he was like, oh, you want me to rap. I don't want to rap anymore. You will not see me or hear me. I'm going to play the flute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so his inclusion in the film is sort of like an example of the other scenario, right? Like,
and he was more than happy. He's the one figure that was like basically gleeful, like,
He showed up early.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Went to Erewhon across the street to shed a little
crazy.
bit.
he showed up early. He brought his flute. He wore his Epic record sweatshirt. Like he
Yeah.
was into it.
Yeah, but literally, by that point, when it got down to Andre, I was like, just traumatized. I'm like, all right, I know this is going to be a no because Andre says no to everything.
Yeah.
And literally, he was like, "Phew, finally, an outlet for me to let you guys know what I've been feeling in my heart for the last 25 years." Like, mind you, like it's 20 years since, the height of him winning the album of the year for Speaker Box Love Below, and he walked away from it all. And that to me, like back in 2003, I was somewhat miffed. I'm like, yo, man, I get up every day at 3 a.m. going to somewhere America or somewhere across the world, like 300 days of my life for 20, and you're just walking away from this? Like, I would die for this. But
Yeah, I
he
remember.
knew something I didn't know.
I remember when it felt like betrayal, and now I'm like, oh, you're the like. There's a part in the film where they're like, there was no blueprint for Sly. Since Sly, he is one of those people who have like left some breadcrumbs. Like, you can live this way.
Well, Sly literally, I mean, he's the first domino. I mean, if you want to say the post-civil rights period being the first period in which, Ray Charles and James Brown and Chuck Berry, like, they couldn't eat at the restaurants they're singing in. They can't sleep in the hotels that, in the cities they're touring. And Chuck Berry was sleeping in his car sometimes, So Sly was the first person, legally at least, that was allowed to exist and experience the fruits of his labor.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and this is part of my last question. I, going through the film, I'm like, wow, Sly had hits that hold up really well in 2025. The same songs that I heard on the the Night Storm radio stations that my mom would play. But I was kind of shocked how little I knew about him, which I think is something that happens in Black and other minority culture. Someone that had a fall from grace, it's like, oh, we don't want that to seep into that behavior to seep into the next generation. Just as two people who, are making a film about someone trying to tell it honestly, but also not trying to have this whole thing be about the dark period. How did you kind of make the decision on, when to insert some of the oh, it wasn't all great.
You have to, there's I guess the first thing we did as far as just figure out what the parameters was as far as the balance is concerned. I know that Sly fans, there are intense Sly fans, those that scour the earth for any sort of gem or that sort of thing. There's Sly fans that are kind of of the hip hop generation that discovered him through samples. There are people that in real time grew up with him, like the Jimmy Jams and the Terry Lewises of the world, who are 11 and 12 years old. So we kind of knew that we had different demographic psychographs that we had to satisfy. For me, I guess the most important part was we definitely made the decision that there's a lot of redundancy in music documentaries. You always hear oh man, it was nothing like it. Oh man, it was incredible. It was amazing, game changing. And you gotta kind of want to know why. The breakdown dance to the music is a great example. It's like that's a song that everyone knows, but I realized that Dance to the Music is almost like if I were to ask you, describe to me what the word "the" means. Like something that we use every day, but do we really know what the definition of "the" is? Yeah, it's there. And I think oftentimes with pop songs, we're so dismissive of the art of like pop craftsmanship. Anybody could do Stravinsky's Rites of Spring. I mean, I'm not being dismissive to Stravinsky or whatever, but I always
shots fired.
Stravinsky.
Now, next day, Questlove got beef with Stravinsky. No, but I'm just saying that Dance to the Music is so powerful and effective. It's not even in my top 5 Sly songs. Like Thriller's not even in my top 5 all-time records. Like some things are like events, but it still needs explanation. I think oftentimes we take for granted that people will just like whatever the so-called trickle down economics. I'm sorry, Reagan baby. the trickle down effect to culture. Like we just naturally assume that, oh, this will be here forever. But no, like memories are selected. And if people aren't here to teach, then, we could forget. Yeah. So.
I'll say this. I want to shout out our editor, Josh Pearson, who I think is a genius. Jeff Mao, our story producer, Laura Marian's our DP. When we started this film, Ahmir was very fluent in Sly's story. And I think what intentionally, I was not. Like, I know the hits and I know the songs from hip hop, but I didn't know the story. And Josh didn't know any of it at all, right? He knew some of the songs, but really that's it. And I think that was good because if something was interesting to all 3 of us, then it was in the film. And in a way, it mimics the audience, right? There's super Sly fans who know everything. There's people who just know the hits. There's people who don't know them at all. But part of it was like, even for the people that knew all the, like, the film has the contours of a traditional rock and roll rise and fall story. I think what we wanted to do different was under the hood is tell that story with empathy and also use it to explain that, these artists give us so much and we should show them some grace, right? Because they give us so much. And Q-Tip talks about it, and a lot of people in this room have been guilty of making Lauryn Hill jokes when she shows up late, right? It's like these artists give us so much, and like I think that's kind of the resounding message, and it's really it's firsthand experience. Like part of the thrill for me is working with one of my musical heroes, but also I've known Ahmir for almost 30 years now, and I've seen how much growth he's had personally. So that I think a lot of his own experience as a musician and as a celebrity. Sorry, I know.
Who,
but,
me?
Yeah, but a lot of that informs how we told this story because I think it would be different in the hands of somebody else, right? That question, what is Black genius? What is the burden of Black genius? Like we kind of played around with it in the beginning. Everyone looks like puzzled, but they weren't. They all answered the question. They all answered it insightfully. They all answered it insightfully because he asked it.
Exactly. Yeah.
They know that he knows and he knows that they know that they, you know what I mean?
No.
So that's the part of the movie that even after watching this 185 times, like I still love that part.
I want to thank Joseph and Ahmir for talking about
Thank you.
this great film. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Wait, I one last thing to say.
Yeah, say it.
So I, from ninth grade till my freshman year in college, my dad owned a video store that I worked at after school and in the summers. And so Vidiots is like, it was like a real familiar feeling to me coming here for the first time today. So I just wanted to shout out Vidiots.
Yeah, shout out
Yes.
to Vidiots. Absolutely.
Shout out the
Thank you for having us.
I also want to say that places like Vidiots are so important to support in however way you can, as the arts are under assault every day. Supporting the arts in whatever way you can, going to a movie, donating to NPR, participating in a fundraiser, whatever you can do, just do it.
Especially now. Yes.